Happy Cloak and Dagger Christmas to all of you. I hope that you're reading some fabulous mysteries and just really having a lovely, lovely December. I have a fun Cloak and Dagger Christmas type mystery video I wanted to do today, and that is to let you know, kind of to list off all of the mystery series that are unfinished that I'm reading. There are quite a few, and I'm going to do rapid fire because there are actually 28. And over a year ago, I had a video of like 5 mystery series I want to finish before I start other ones. But then I had my big mystery slump last year and it's just all a mess. But you know what? I love mysteries and it's fun to start new ones, as it's also fun to continue with some. So some I have a lot left in the series. Some I only have like half. Some I only have a couple left. And let's just get into the books. And the first series is the Agatha Raisin series. I cannot help smiling whenever I talk about this series. And Agatha Raisin is this kind of young retiree. She's very sardonic. She really, you will like her or you will hate her. You will love her or you will hate her. She has a really intense personality. And so I can tell you right now that if you don't like her personality, if you don't think it's funny, I would just stay away from this series because her personality is really a huge part of this series. But she retires into the Cotswolds for a quiet, peaceful retirement. But this village has an insanely high murder rate. Little did she know. But also in this series, you're going to see kind of her romantic entanglements. She travels around some. The books are all around 250 pages. They're such an easy, fun, light, easy breezy read, and I love this series. The next one is the Her Royal Spyness series by Rhys Bowen. I have been going through this series slowly but surely with Kate from the novel Nomad. It's about Georgie, who has title but is out of funds, and so she kind of has to figure out different ways to make money. In addition to that, though, she does know the Queen personally because she is something like 37th in line to the throne. So the Queen knows who she is and sometimes will want her to do some investigating into well, who is this person? And are they having an affair with someone? Things like that. And so she sends her off to these exotic locations. But it's a really, really fun series. Another easy breezy light series. I love the main character, Georgie, and the romance that she has. Kind of a lot of it culminates in the 12 Clues of Christmas. It's so good. And I cannot wait to read the next one, which we're planning on this month, Airs and Graces. And I just love this series. Next is the Flavian Toulouse series by Alan Bradley. I have had sort of an up and down relationship with this series, and I think part of it was that I binged too close together. I am not one of those people who, with a few exceptions, likes to binge series. I need space between them, and so I kind of did myself a disservice by reading a bunch of them really close together. And then I think maybe a year went by and I was like, I would love to read a Flavia. And so I read a couple of them, and then hopefully soon Kate from the novel Nomad and I will be picking up at the same part in the series and buddy reading some together because we had read a couple of them together. And it's about Flavian Toulouse, who is a young lady who is also into chemistry. It's a really unusual investigator, and I love that about it. You know, she's into chemistry, which you don't see a lot of female characters in book series that like science, so that's a really neat thing to represent there. And it's set in the 50s in this little country town in England, which so many mystery series are set there, you know, but it's very classic. And I just love seeing her kind of investigating. She has a bicycle, which she's named Gladys, and it's really fun to see her kind of trying to figure things out, this amateur investigator, and it's a lovely, lovely series. The next one is the Hercule Poirot series by Agatha Christie. This one is so incredibly famous. It was written in the golden age of crime, and there are so many books in this series, and I have read, I think, 13 of them. So I'm slowly making my way through, but sadness, they took all the Poirot audiobooks off Hoopla. So I think I'll be reading physical copies from now, unless the library have them. Anyhow, I really do like this series. It took a little while for it to grow on me because it is very golden age, so the characterization isn't going to be as strong as you'll see in newer mysteries. But since they are so short, the more puzzle mystery aspect, I can enjoy that in a shorter mystery. And I have come to really love the character of Poirot. He's very buttoned up. He's very OCD. He likes things the way that he likes them. He likes his mustache. His mustache is to be pristine. He has a certain way he wears his shoes. He is just so. And I love that Belgian detective, and I recommend this series. The next one is the Inspector Linley Mysteries by Elizabeth George. Good grief. I savor this series. It is so literary, and it's about Inspector Linley, who is actually Lord Linley, but doesn't want to live this kind of life of privilege where he just kind of has to meet people at tea and kind of socialize for a living. He wants to have a day job, and so he is an inspector. And the depths that Elizabeth George gives you with these characters is unreal. She really gets you an intimate portrait with them and lets you get to know them. And it's just, they're incredible, incredible stories. And I savor them when I read them. I really feel them as deeply as I do like Victorian classics. That's how much the feelings get me. The next is the Wells and Wong series by Robin Stevens. This is a really lovely middle grade mystery series of which I've only read the first one, but I really liked it. It's really confusing because the American titles and British titles are different, and I just wish they wouldn't do that. Like, if it is a British series, keep the British titles. Or if it's an American series, keep the American titles. It drives me crazy because it took me the longest time to realize the library had them just under the American names. But it's set at an all-girls boarding school, which, if boarding school is one of your, like, buzzwords that you like, definitely check out this series. And I definitely want to read more, but I have 28 series that I'm juggling, so I haven't gotten to the next one yet. The next series is the Cop Sisters Mysteries, written by Amy Stewart. The first one in the series, Girl Waits with Gun, made a lot of buzz on BookTube, and then I haven't heard about the subsequent ones as much. I have read the second one, and it had a bit of the sophomore slump, but I definitely want to continue on with the series because the bones of the story I really liked. These three sisters living in the 30s, right outside of New York City in a suburb in New Jersey. And she was one of the first female detectives, which is really, really cool. The main one is Constance. But the other two sisters kind of help her with the case. But it was a really lively, it had a really lively, larger than life feel to it. And I love that about it. So I definitely want to keep going with the series. The next one is the Lady Emily Mysteries by Tasha Alexander. This is a really fun, romantic series set in the Victorian era about Lady Emily, who in the first one is widowed and basically investigates how her husband has died. It looks like natural causes at first, and then the more she learns, the more suspicious his death becomes. It's a really, really wonderful, just edge of your seat, pacey series, and it's just so like gossipy, and there's so many twists and turns, and I really, really love it. The next one is the Armand Gamache series from Three Pines. This is another one, like emotionally, I feel it the same way that I do the Inspector Linley mysteries. This is a series written by Louise Penny. This actually has been fairly popular on BookTube, and for good reason. I really love this series. It's so incredibly literary, and it's so introspective. And what I love is how much out of history and arts and culture that Louise Penny puts into this series. You can really tell she has a deep, deep love for arts and culture and makes them part of the plot. And things like really old statues that I hadn't heard about, or philosophers that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. So it's a really rich series with the different references that it makes. And Armand Gamache, I think, is just one of the most noble men ever. I love him so much. I think I'm 3 books behind in this series, so this is one that I have less to go. And the next one is the Lord Peter Wimsey series by Dorothy L. Sayers. This is one that I have kind of a mixed relationship with. I do have this pet peeve about Golden Age crime, and that the characterization isn't as strong as newer ones, and also the info dumping that happens. And Dorothy Sayers is all about the info dumping. So I have had one that was a 5-star mystery out of that series, and that was Strong Poison. There are 2 sections to the Lord Peter Wimsey series, basically. The first is before he meets Harriet Vane, and then the next ones are When You Know Harriet Vane. And she's such a wonderful character. She's a mystery writer who's a character, so I love that kind of. Dorothy Sayers wrote herself into the series, but I love Strong Poison. It's one of my favorite mysteries I've ever read, and so that has made me want to continue along, at least with the Harriet and Lord Peter mysteries. I think it's basically kind of not my style, but everyone talks up Gaudy Night so much, which is where kind of their relationship, really everything culminates. So I keep reading through to get to Gaudy Night, hoping it will be another 5-star read, just like Strong Poison was. The next on the list is the Hawthorne Mysteries by Anthony Horowitz. So Anthony Horowitz is a really seasoned writer of television. He has written the Midsummer Mysteries for years, and also the series Foyle's War, which I really loved. So I read the first in this series. I haven't read the second, but it's just really pristine writing, a really well thought out plot. This woman goes to plan her funeral because she's an older woman, and so she doesn't want to leave that burden when she does pass, and then dies the next day. It's very suspicious, obviously. So I really enjoyed that series, the one that I read in that series, and hopefully he'll keep coming out with them, but in the meanwhile I can read the second one. The next series is the Charles Lennox Mysteries, written by Charles Finch. This is also set in the Victorian era, and it's kind of got a Sherlock Holmes vibe to it. He's a gentleman, and in the last book, though, he becomes a politician, which I thought that was really neat. You know, he is this gentleman, and he has this platform that he can use. He is really wealthy in this time, so he decides to run for office, and he really wants to do good by his community, and it's really fun. There's a sweet romance that's in there, and it is a nice balance between plot, writing, characterization, a really nice kind of bread and butter type mystery series. The next is the Maisie Dobbs series. This one is on that same list of emotional engagement for me as the Inspector Linley and the Armand Gamache mysteries. I love this series so much. Maisie Dobbs is a former nurse. She was a nurse in World War I, and that's when the series starts, right after World War I, so you get to know a little bit. She opens up her own private investigation firm, and one of the characters who works with her, you really come to love him as well, because you see him in each book and see his character development, and now things are leading up to the ones that I've read. World War II is going to happen. So it's a really interesting and turbulent time for the world, so hence a really great time to have a mystery series. There is an ache about this series. So these books, they hurt when you read them, but it seems really only appropriate for the time that this series happens. And it's just so good. Next is the Pervine Mystery series by Sujata Massey. So I read the first one, which was The Widows of Malabar Hill. There is only one other one out, and it's the Moonstone something. Put a picture up there. And I really like this one. It's set in India in the 30s, and it's really fascinating to see this young woman trying to investigate in a society that thinks women should kind of just stay in the home. And how she's viewed that way. It's a really interesting dynamic to add. I was really guessing till the end with the actual mystery, and it was just really fascinating. I definitely recommend the first one, The Widows of Malabar Hill, and I'm hoping to get to the second one sooner rather than later. The next is the Matthew Shardlake series. Dissolution was the first one, and I read it in January right before my mystery slump hit, and I did really enjoy that one. It was stunning in its writing and its structure. I mean, C.J. Sansom, the author, he knew exactly what he was doing. It was a stunning work. Matthew Shardlake is a lawyer who used to be a monk. It is set in the Tudor era in England, so that's a really kind of big departure from the normal mysteries that I read, and it was a really just excellent mystery, and I definitely want to carry on. I failed at a buddy read of the second one, so I'm not sure if it's kind of the right time in my reading life for me to try to pick it up again, but I definitely have not given up on it. Maybe when I would be feeling better more regularly, I would be more up for it. The next one is the Inspector Morris Mysteries by Colin Dexter. I've read the first 4 in this series, and this is another one that's just a really good bread and butter series. Inspector Morris is he's a real curmudgeon, and he works with a younger guy, Inspector Lewis, who is they kind of got a Holmes and Watson type vibe. Except actually, though, it's kind of a running gag with the series that Inspector Morris gives the wrong guess for who the killer is. So it's just fun to see that, and it's fun to see an investigator who isn't all-knowing, who isn't omniscient. And I really like that about the series. Yeah, there's just little bits of humor thrown in. It's pristinely written, and I really want to keep going with it. Then the Amelia Peabody series by Elizabeth Peters. This is a really fun series set in the Victorian era, but in Egypt, because Amelia Peabody and her husband Emerson are Egyptologists. And they go around investigating. Periodically, they will go back to England, but it's just really, really fun. Unfortunately, I haven't been quite as interested in historical fiction mystery series, or this one. It does have a lot of information and details to take in about kind of artifacts and the geography of where they are. But I definitely do want to pick up another one again at some point, because it's just so well written and there's a lot of humor in there that I really love. Then the Sannoichiro series by Laura Jo Roland. I have only read the first one, which was Shinju, but this was like a thriller type mystery, and I loved it. It's set in Japan and Edo when it was closed, and it is just a really edge of your seat, like so many twists and turns. I had no idea what was going to happen next, and I'm really intrigued to see the next one, because his career really changed a lot from the events that happened, that unfolded in that first one. So I definitely want to pick up the next one when I get a chance. Then the Grantchester Mysteries by James Runcie. I've read the first two in these, and these are such a cool, introspective, poignant series that they're written in novellas. And so each book is a collection of 6 or 7 of them. So it feels really easy and approachable to pick them up. I love the feeling that you get for the community of Grantchester. Sidney Chambers is the main, he's your inspector, and he is a priest. And so some people, while they might be off-put by the church, there are others who feel really trusting of a priest and would say more to him than they might say to another inspector. So he works very closely with one of the inspectors in Grantchester, and it's neat to see their friendship. The next one on the list are the Mitford Murders by Jessica Townsend. So I've only read the first in the series, but I really, really loved it. It was just a good historical mystery series, and featuring the Mitford sisters, the famous Mitford family. And I definitely want to read the next one, which is Bright Young Dead. And I think there's a third one out. So definitely want to keep an eye on this historical mystery series. And then the Aaron Falk series by Jane Harper. I read and loved The Dry. It's an Australian series, and it really does tread the line between mystery and thriller. And it was just I had no idea what was going to happen. It was such an exciting, pacey read, and I definitely want to get to the next one. So far, there are only 2 out in the series, so I'm not way behind on that one. Then the Max Tudor Mysteries by G.M. Malliet. This is a more cozy series, and this is another series in which the vicar is the inspector. I have read the first 4 in the series, and I think there are 8 out total. And he is in the town of Nethermonkslip, and he is the vicar. He used to be an MI5 agent. So it's really interesting how that comes into play in his investigations, in his contacts, who he knew before he was a vicar. And it's a really sleepy little town with recurring characters. There's some romance in there. It's a really lovely little historical mystery series. Next is the Duncan, Kincaid, and Gemma James series by Deborah Crombie. I've only read 1 in this series, and there are many, 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 but I just got sidetracked with so many other. Once I catch up on my other mysteries that I'm able to read via audiobook, this is one that I have access to on audiobook on Overdrive. I'll definitely then start picking this up again. I really enjoyed it. It's just like standard bread and butter mystery series. Their personalities didn't really stand out to me. I wasn't like super blown away, but I liked it enough that I think maybe some mystery series just take a little while to pick up steam, and I would like it more as I continued on. Then the Adam Dalgliesh series by P.D. James. These are incredibly the writing is pristine. She has such skill with the pen. This is a series I'm actually reading out of order. Some series, I think it doesn't matter as much. So I've read 4 out of the 14. And I've read kind of here, there, and everywhere in the series. I do own all of the books. My dad gave them to me when he was kind of weeding out his book collection. And so I really, I want to continue with this. It's just a series that's very, very worth my time. Then we're coming to the end here, the Alan Grant series by Josephine Tey. I've read 2 out of the 6. So this is a series I could check off really easily by just reading 4 more. And I loved Daughter of Time. That is one that it's kind of the rear window of mysteries, where someone is investigating something from their bed. They're investigating a historical mystery. And then I read The Man in the Queue, which was the first in the series, and I definitely didn't enjoy The Man in the Queue as much. Kind of my gripes with some golden age crime. That was my gripe with that one. But I definitely want to pick up some more because I loved her writing, and I love a standalone from her, Brett Farrar. I've also heard really good things about To Love and Be Wise, which is another standalone. So I definitely am not done reading Josephine Tey. Then the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. This is one, it was on my TBR to read the next one because I love this first one so much. Really fun, fast-paced historical mystery series, and I definitely want to read the next one. So hopefully I will do that. And then lastly, the Kate Shackleton series by Frances Brody. The first one is Dying in the Wool, and I read that one and then didn't enjoy it that much. I thought it was kind of plotting and didn't know where it wanted to go. But Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures, I really, really trust her taste. So I want to give this a go. She has said that every book since that has been so much better. So I think Kate Shackleton was kind of finding her feet as a writer in that first one. So I don't want to give up on it. If Mel recommends it, I really trust Mel's advice, and I want to keep going with that one. So that is the rundown of all the mystery series I'm in the middle of. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's fun to have a lot of variety in the mysteries that you're reading. So hopefully I'll get some, checked off as ones that I've read fully. But that is all I have for today. I hope you're having a great Cloak and Dagger Christmas, and I'll be back for another video soon. Bye.